She gave her life to protect a country that betrayed her, and when she discovered her husband's affair, she didn't just kill him. She uncovered a conspiracy so dark it reached into the heart of the military itself. What began as a crime of passion unraveled into a war for truth, fought in blood, betrayal, and secrets the government was willing to kill for. Welcome to Through Crime, your portal into the most chilling true crime cases, unsolved mysteries, and the darkest corners of criminal history. Don't forget to like, share, and comment on this video, and if you are new here, do well to hit the subscribe button. We dig deep into the facts, uncover shocking twists, and explore the theories that keep investigators and the world on edge. Stay back and enjoy. Cassandra Blake was the definition of strength. A decorated Army veteran, she had served 3 tours in Afghanistan and earned the respect of her fellow soldiers with her fierce bravery and unwavering loyalty. When she came back home to Georgia, broken in places only war could break, she did what she was taught. She rebuilt. She met Marcus Blake during her physical therapy. He was charming, soft-spoken, a financial advisor who promised her a life of peace, of healing. And for a while, he delivered. They got married, bought a house on a quiet cul-de-sac, and Cassandra even started a small fitness business to help other veterans cope with trauma. To outsiders, they were the golden couple. She the warrior, he the devoted husband. But behind closed doors, Cassandra felt something shift. The affection dimmed. The late nights started. The passwords changed. And Marcus, well, Marcus had secrets. It began with a lipstick stain on a wine glass, one she didn't recognize. Then came the perfume, floral and cheap, not Cassandra's sandalwood and smoke. And finally, the text message that changed everything. She wasn't snooping. Not really. The phone lit up while he was in the shower. Just one message. I miss you already. Can't wait for tomorrow, babe, kiss mark. It was from Leah, his secretary. A woman 10 years younger, barely old enough to rent a car, but old enough to wrap her claws around a married man. Cassandra stared at the phone in disbelief. Rage didn't come first. Or did? The kind of soul-splitting ache you can't scream away. This was the man she'd bled for. The man who smiled at her every night while keeping another woman warm in secret. And so, the soldier in her rose again. But this war was different. She didn't confront him. That would be too easy. Instead, she started planning, methodically, calculatingly, like she used to do in combat zones. Cassandra studied his routines, tracked his meetings, and even followed Leah one night after Marcus kissed her goodbye in the office parking lot. She took photos. She recorded audio. She documented it all. 2 weeks later, she invited Marcus to a reconnection weekend at a rented cabin. Just the 2 of them, no distractions. He agreed, eager to silence his guilt, oblivious to what Cassandra had prepared. The cabin was remote, no neighbors for miles. She cooked his favorite meal, poured his favorite wine, made love to him like it was their honeymoon all over again. Then, when he was asleep, she got to work. Marcus awoke groggy and confused. His hands were bound, feet tied. He was seated in a metal chair in the middle of the garage. Cassandra stood across from him in full army gear, camouflage, boots, even her medals pinned proudly. She stared at him with the calm of a sniper. "I died for you," she said, "and you spent my sacrifice between the thighs of your secretary." Marcus began to cry, plead, beg. But Cassandra wasn't listening. She wanted him to feel everything. She didn't stab him or shoot him. That would be mercy. She used techniques she'd learned in training, pressure points, minor but agonizing injuries. It was slow, calculated. Every second was a message. When the police finally found Marcus's body, it looked like a torture scene. But there was no sign of Cassandra. Just a military medal left on his chest like a calling card. Investigators initially suspected a robbery gone wrong or a deranged veteran with PTSD. But then they checked his phone. What they found opened a portal into Marcus's hidden life. Affairs, blackmail, shady financial dealings, even hush money transfers. Leah wasn't just a mistress. She was involved in embezzling money from Cassandra's veteran charity with Marcus's help. Cassandra had not just been betrayed in love. She was robbed of honor, of dignity, of everything she built after the war. Public sympathy began to shift. Cassandra became something of an urban legend, a war hero turned vigilante, a woman pushed beyond the brink. Social media lit up with the hashtag Justice for Cass. But where was she? Then came a strange package to the local sheriff's office, a USB drive. On it, a video of Cassandra, her face stoic, yet fierce. I fought for this country. I watched friends die in the dirt beside me. And when I came back, the man I trusted most spat on that sacrifice. I didn't snap, I woke up. And I'm not running. I'm just not done yet. Just as investigators scrambled to hunt her down, something else surfaced. Leah, the secretary, was found unconscious in her apartment, a similar medal placed beside her. Except she was alive, barely. Cassandra had spared her. For now. Authorities feared that Cassandra was executing her own form of justice, one target at a time. In a world where loyalty is currency, betrayal can be fatal. Cassandra Blake was more than a woman scorned. She was a soldier reclaiming her battlefield. Her methods were brutal, her motives complex. But to many, it wasn't madness. It was balance. A reckoning. And as the camera pans out on the final scene, somewhere deep in a forest bunker, Cassandra sharpens a blade under candlelight. A photo of another man pinned to the wall. A man no one suspects. Because the real enemy was still out there. To be continued. Before Cassandra ever discovered Marcus's affair, there was a shadow in their lives. His name was Dr. Andrew Cole, Marcus's best friend, Cassandra's therapist, and the co-founder of the Veteran Support Center she built from the ground up. Dr. Cole had earned Cassandra's trust during her darkest moments. He listened, advised, and even helped get her military benefits expedited. But underneath his polished exterior was a man with a twisted agenda. Unbeknownst to Cassandra, Andrew and Marcus had conspired together for years, manipulating her mental health records to secure more government funding. They'd used her as a face for their nonprofit while siphoning money into offshore accounts. And when Cassandra started asking questions, Marcus had gaslit her. "You're just paranoid," he told her. "You're not well." It wasn't just betrayal, it was institutionalized exploitation. And Cassandra had the receipts now. Leah, Marcus's mistress, had barely survived. In her hospital bed, bruised and half-conscious, she whispered a name to the detectives. Andrew T. helped set it up. Marcus said she'd never find out. This revelation shifted everything. Detectives began tailing Dr. Cole. But he was slippery. Clever. Too clever. He denied everything. played the victim, claimed Cassandra was unstable and dangerous. The media began to echo his voice. Was Cassandra Blake a mentally unwell veteran? A time bomb that finally went off? But while they debated, she was already watching. Cassandra had learned in war that patience was power. She set up camp in an abandoned hunting cabin deep in the Blue Ridge Mountains. From there, she monitored Andrew's every move, his routines, his favorite bar, the woman he secretly visited every Thursday. She didn't rush. She trained. She studied. And every night, she stared at the file folder she had compiled on him. Photos, bank statements, therapy notes he wasn't supposed to keep. The truth was thick and damning. Andrew wasn't just a fraud. He was a predator. Over the years, he had manipulated and exploited multiple female veterans, coercing them into silence with threats of having their benefits revoked or their mental health records tarnished. But Cassandra wasn't going to the police. She was the reckoning. It was a rainy Thursday when Cassandra made her move. Andrew returned home late, stumbling from one too many glasses of scotch. The lights in his house flickered. A small blackout, maybe? Then, darkness. He lit a candle, only to find Cassandra sitting at his dining table, wearing his military-issued jacket. Her Glock lay on the table between them, silent, waiting. "Nice house," she said. "Paid for with stolen valor and broken women." Andrew froze, his hands slightly raised. "Cass, listen, you're sick. You need help." "I needed help years ago," she whispered. "And you sold me instead." He lunged for the gun. But Cassandra anticipated it, disarming him with a swift move and slamming him to the floor with brutal efficiency. She tied him up the same way she had Marcus. Only this time, she placed a voice recorder on the table. "Confess," she said. "Everything." Andrew refused. So she started playing audio clips she had secretly recorded of him and Marcus. Bragging, laughing, planning. He paled. She leaned in. "You have two choices. Speak your truth or die with it." Andrew broke. Tearfully, he confessed everything. How they exploited veterans, how he falsified records, how Marcus wanted Cassandra institutionalized when she began to suspect. He named others too, 2 board members, a fake psychiatrist, even a politician. Cassandra recorded it all. But instead of killing him, she injected him with a sedative. Then, she called 911 anonymously. When paramedics and officers arrived, they found Andrew tied to a chair, muttering confessions like a broken man. On the floor beside him was a flash drive, labeled, "The Truth." The press exploded. The story shifted overnight from crazy vet on the run to veteran uncovers massive fraud ring exploiting PTSD patients. Multiple arrests followed. Leah testified. Investigations revealed that Cassandra had been right all along. The charity was a front, the therapy practice a scam, and Marcus, her husband, was at the center of it. Cassandra Blake became a hero again. But she was still wanted for vigilante justice. The government doesn't forgive that, no matter how right you are. And still, no one could find her. Sometimes, justice doesn't come in the form of a courtroom verdict. Sometimes, it wears boots, hides in the shadows, and strikes like lightning. Cassandra Blake had suffered in silence. She fought a war abroad and came home to fight another against the very people she trusted. She lost her husband, her reputation, and nearly her sanity. But she reclaimed her voice, and in doing so, gave countless other victims a chance to speak. The final scene is grainy CCTV footage. A veteran women's shelter in Texas receives an anonymous donation of $50,000. The woman at the reception desk looks up, puzzled. Outside, the security camera captures a figure in a baseball cap, slipping into a truck. Zoom in. A faded military tattoo. A familiar jawline. Cassandra Blake is still out there. But this time, she's not just seeking revenge. She's building an army. After the explosive downfall of Marcus Blake and Dr. Andrew Cole, the media turned its eyes toward one question: where is Cassandra Blake now? Some called her a hero, others a criminal, but all agreed she was gone, like a ghost in combat. No sightings, no leads. Just the echo of a woman who once served her country and then declared war on its corruption. But while law enforcement spun their wheels, Cassandra was anything but idle. In a remote corner of Texas, far from surveillance and noise, Cassandra set up a hidden refuge, a sanctuary for veterans abandoned by the system. Not just women, but men too. Those betrayed by institutions, gaslit by bureaucracy, and forgotten by a country they'd bled for. She called it Camp Valor. It wasn't just a shelter. It was training grounds, therapy sessions, strategy meetings, and, at its core, a growing resistance. Former soldiers, whistleblowers, and survivors ready to expose the rot within veteran services, the healthcare system, and the justice system. Cassandra didn't start a war. She unveiled one that was already happening. They came in silence. One by one. Monique Reyes, a Marine who had reported sexual assault and was dishonorably discharged for misconduct. David Lowell, an Iraq vet with PTSD, denied benefits because his diagnosis was inconclusive. Tasha Green, a mother of two who lost her housing when the government cut her support mid-treatment. Each story was a wound. Each person, another casualty of a system built to fail them. Cassandra listened. She trained them. She taught them how to collect evidence, how to protect themselves, how to fight back legally, and when necessary, how to vanish. They didn't call themselves rebels. They called themselves witnesses. 3 months later, a new wave of leaks hit the media. Hidden audio tapes, financial records, photos, testimonies from veterans long thought silenced. They exposed a chilling pattern: medical record tampering, forged disability claims, illegal institutionalizations, and entire nonprofits acting as laundering fronts. The evidence was overwhelming and anonymous. Government officials scrambled. Internal investigations launched. High-ranking VA executives were arrested. It became clear someone was orchestrating this from the shadows. Then, a message appeared on a military forum. We are the forgotten, but we remember everything. CB. Not everyone wanted the truth out. A secret government task force was formed, Operation Phoenix Shadow. Their goal? Locate Cassandra Blake. Eliminate the witnesses. Control the narrative. Leading the hunt was Special Agent Wesley Maddox, a former Army Ranger turned federal enforcer. Ruthless, calculating, and with a personal score to settle. His brother had been exposed in Cassandra's last leak. But Cassandra anticipated him. She studied him. And she knew the most dangerous enemies weren't the ones hunting her, they were the ones pretending to help her. One of the witnesses was a mole. His name was Isaiah Brooks, a quiet, wounded vet with a heartbreaking story. Cassandra trusted him. But one night, during a data transfer operation, Isaiah disappeared. Minutes later, an explosion rocked the East Storage Unit at Camp Valor, destroying hard drives, medical files, and evidence set to go public. 2 witnesses were killed. 4 others injured. It was Cassandra's worst fear come true. Someone had infiltrated the movement. She stood over the smoldering wreckage, fists clenched, heart shattered, not just from the betrayal, but from the lives lost under her command. "This is war now," she whispered. Mere days later, an encrypted message was sent to every major news network. "They think we're terrorists, but we're soldiers of truth. They killed our bodies, erased our files. But they will never silence our stories. The witnesses rise. And we're everywhere." Attached to the message was a video, testimony from a decorated Navy SEAL forced into psychiatric treatment after uncovering a smuggling ring run by his superiors. The media exploded. Cassandra's movement wasn't just surviving, it was spreading. And this time, the world was listening. Justice is never clean. It's jagged, costly. Sometimes, it takes the form of a trial. Other times, a torch in the hands of someone who's lost everything. Cassandra Blake didn't set out to become a revolutionary. She just wanted the truth. But in seeking it, she lit a fire no one could put out. She reminded the world that even broken warriors can still march. That silence is a weapon, and truth is louder than any gun. The final scene fades in on a dimly lit motel room. A man paces nervously, clutching a duffel bag. We see his face, Agent Wesley Maddox. He opens a burner phone. One message. "Turn around." He spins, gun drawn. But it's too late. Cassandra stands in the doorway. Steady. Unshakable. "You were never the hunter, Reese. You were the next name on my list." Fade to black. The silence stretched like a loaded chamber. Maddox held his breath, his pistol raised. Cassandra didn't flinch. "You were military once," she said. "You know what betrayal smells like." Maddox's voice was tense. "You're a vigilante. A domestic threat. You murdered a man, your husband." Cassandra took a step forward, slow, measured. "And how many women did he destroy before I stopped him? You think I'm the threat? Look in the mirror, Reese. You're working for the system that broke me." Behind her, the room flickered. Cameras. Live feed. This wasn't just a confrontation. It was a broadcast. 3 years ago, Wesley Maddox was decorated for dismantling an internal smuggling ring inside the military. But the public never knew the real story. Cassandra had uncovered the truth. Reese didn't expose the ring. He covered it up. His brother, Colonel Wesley Maddox, was at the center of it. Reese buried evidence, framed a lower-ranking officer, and cut a deal to rise in the federal ranks. Now Cassandra had the documents, email chains, bank records, intercepted calls. She didn't need to kill him. She just needed the world to see who he really was. And she planned to do it live. Cassandra placed a small black flash drive on the table between them. "Everything's here, Reese. Your secrets. Your brother's crimes. The real story of how you got your badge." She slid it across the table. "You have 2 options. You go public. Or I do." Maddox's jaw tightened. "You think the agency won't bury this?" Cassandra leaned in, her voice cold. They buried veterans, raped soldiers, killed whistleblowers. But this goes straight to the press. I've set it to auto-upload in 72 hours unless I cancel it. So ask yourself, who gets to decide how this story ends? You or me? Back at Camp Valor, witness operatives launched simultaneous info leaks in D.C., Atlanta, and San Diego. A Pentagon official was exposed for sex trafficking. A defense contractor was arrested for embezzling over $40 million meant for wounded veterans. A whistleblower inside the VA released a cache of falsified mental health evaluations, some going back 15 years. Each revelation carried the same mark, a digital insignia shaped like a phoenix rising from barbed wire. The witnesses were no longer a hidden movement. They were a revolution. The media turned on the government. Congressional hearings were launched. Protests erupted outside VA hospitals. Families of veterans demanded justice. Meanwhile, Maddox sat in his motel room, staring at the drive. He played the recordings. He saw the signatures. He heard his own voice from a call he thought was private. They're just broken soldiers. No one cares what happens to them once they're used up. He slammed the laptop shut, shaking. The next morning, Maddox stood behind a podium at a press conference arranged by the Department of Justice. Cameras rolled. "I've come to speak the truth," he said. "I was part of a cover-up. My brother, Colonel Wesley Maddox, and I protected high-ranking officials in exchange for power. I falsified evidence, manipulated justice, and betrayed the people I swore to serve." Gasps filled the room. Reporters scrambled. "But this isn't about me. This is about the voices we silenced, the lives we destroyed, and the woman who made sure we couldn't keep hiding." Behind the curtain, Cassandra watched from a distance, hood over her head, arms crossed. No smile. No satisfaction. Just solemnity. Justice didn't undo the pain. But it mattered. Warrants were issued. Wesley Maddox was arrested trying to flee the country. 2 senators resigned in disgrace. Over $80 million was seized from fraudulent veteran charities. And most shockingly, Maddox was granted limited immunity in exchange for full cooperation and testimony. He never saw Cassandra again, but he left her one final message. "You were right. We lost our way. But maybe this is how we find it again." That night, Cassandra stood alone on a cliff outside Camp Valor, staring out at the horizon. Below, her army, the witnesses, continued their mission. Training, healing, organizing. She wasn't just a soldier anymore. She was a symbol. But as the wind swept through the canyon, a voice behind her broke the silence. "There's someone you need to meet," said Monique Reyes, her second in command. "A girl from Kentucky." Her brother was institutionalized after speaking out against his base commander. "She has proof." Cassandra turned slowly, eyes narrowing. "Then we help her." The screen fades to black. A single line appears. "The war isn't over. Not until the last voice is heard." Then static. And a new image flickers into view. An unknown woman in a military uniform, bound, bruised, whispering. "Please, tell Cassandra. They're still doing it, they're still doing it." The clip had been sent from a burner account. No metadata. No traceable signal. Just 15 seconds of horror. A young woman in a tattered uniform, shackled, bruised, lips trembling. She gasped through blood and tears. "Tell Cassandra. They're still doing it. Fort Dresden, my brother. He tried to expose it. Please." Then static. Monique Reyes leaned in. Facial recognition ran a hit. Her name is Private Lila Hart. 22. Went missing 3 weeks ago. The Army classified it as AWOL. Cassandra's fists clenched. Another lie. They had exposed corruption at the top. But this was deeper. More sinister. Systemic. She looked up at Monique, voice firm. "We're going to Kentucky." Fort Dresden was officially decommissioned in 2009. But intelligence gathered by the witnesses told a different story: low-power activity spikes, satellite images showing movement, blacked-out deliveries. Off-grid and off-record, it had become a black site. For what? Cassandra was about to find out. She assembled a small recon team. Monique Reyes, Stealth Ops. David Lowell, Tech and Surveillance. Tasha Green, Logistics and Exfil. And Cassandra, led infiltration. They weren't just going to investigate. They were going to liberate. Under cover of night, they reached the outskirts of the base. Barbed wire, patrols, infrared drones. Cassandra whispered through her comms, "Dresden isn't dead. It's alive. And we're walking into its heart." With surgical precision, they breached the perimeter. Inside, they discovered something chilling. Cells. Not barracks. Not bunks. Cages. Women and men. Soldiers. Some with shaved heads, others clearly sedated, a few with visible signs of abuse. Cassandra's eyes burned with fury. This wasn't a facility. It was a human lab. They found the files. Paper and digital backups. Redacted reports, coded logs. Lila's brother, Corporal Ezra Hart, had discovered unauthorized drug trials being conducted on low-ranking soldiers. When he threatened to go public, he was institutionalized under a fake psychiatric breakdown. Days later, he committed suicide. Except his body was never released. David accessed the security feeds. Footage from 2 nights prior showed a man, restrained, screaming, injected with something. Timestamp, 2:03 a.m. Tag on his uniform, the heart. Ezra was still alive. But barely. She'd seen war. Blood. But this was something else. Government-sanctioned torture. Experimental drugging. Suppression of whistleblowers. Cassandra ordered an immediate extraction. Monique and Tasha secured Ezra and 5 other prisoners. But Lila? She was missing. Until they reached the basement. There, strapped to a gurney, barely breathing, was Lila. A doctor stood over her, needle in hand. Before he could react, Cassandra fired. One clean shot. He crumpled. She knelt by Lila. "You're safe now." Lila's voice was barely a whisper. They said no one would come. Not after Marcus. Not after Cole. Cassandra brushed her hair back. They were wrong. With alarms blaring, the team raced through the compound. Guard reinforcements swarmed the grounds. Monique launched smoke grenades, David jammed comms, and Cassandra carried Lila on her back. They made it to the extraction vehicle. Tasha drove like hellfire through the woods, dodging bullets and drones. The last thing Cassandra saw before the base faded behind them was Fort Dresden burning. Set ablaze by a timed charge David planted inside the experimental lab. The House of Horrors had been exposed. But the war was still unfolding. 2 days later, the witnesses published everything. Videos from inside Fort Dresden. Medical records of illegal trials. Whistleblower testimonies. Files that proved the entire operation was funded by private defense contractors and shielded by high-ranking military insiders. The world reeled. Fort Dresden was officially condemned. Investigations flooded in. Threats were made, but not all. Some escaped, and others still pulled strings in the shadows. Cassandra stood before her growing ranks of witnesses and delivered a speech. They thought we were broken, but we are forged, stronger with every name we expose, every soul we rescue. We are not just fighting for justice. We are rewriting the rules of war. As the screen fades, we see a man sitting in a dark office, watching Cassandra on a monitor. Behind him, a wall of screens, photos of witness leaders, maps, blueprints, military files. A voice speaks from the shadows. She's becoming a myth. We need to end this now. The man replies, I'll handle Cassandra Blake. She's not a ghost. She's flesh and blood. And I know exactly how to find her. The camera zooms in on the man's face. Colonel Wesley Maddox. And very much alive. Fade to black. The man they thought was buried in shame has risen from the ashes. Colonel Wesley Maddox, exposed war criminal, fugitive, brother to the disgraced agent, has one mission left: to silence the woman who ruined his empire. But Cassandra Blake is no longer just a soldier. She's the spark of a revolution. And this time, the battlefield is personal. It's been 3 weeks since the fall of Fort Dresden. The witnesses had grown. Now a coalition of over 400 veterans, whistleblowers, medics, and cyber warriors. Cassandra stood in Camp Valor's command room when Monique rushed in with a look she hadn't worn since the early days. Fear. We intercepted a message on the dark channel. It's him. Wesley Maddox. He's alive. The recording was short, encrypted, and chilling. You took my brother. You took my legacy. Now, Cassandra, I'm coming to take everything from you. Colonel Maddox wasn't hiding. He was recruiting. From abandoned militia groups, dishonorably discharged extremists, and shadow agents still loyal to his regime. He called them the remnant. They operated like ghosts, hit-and-run tactics, data wipes, blackmail leaks. In 1 week alone, Camp Valor's medical supply convoy was ambushed. A top witness coder was assassinated in broad daylight. Lila Hart's safe house was breached. She barely escaped with her life. This wasn't war anymore. This was calculated destruction. Cassandra gathered her inner circle. Morale was low. People were scared. The movement was at risk. This isn't just about me, she said. Maddox wants to break the chain. If we fracture now, everything we've built will collapse. David slammed his laptop shut. We need to take the fight to him. Wherever he's hiding. Tasha nodded. He's hunting us. Let's flip the script. Monique, though, hesitated. What if we're playing into his trap? What if this is what he wants? Silence. Then Cassandra spoke the words no one expected. Then let him come. Let him try. They needed to draw Maddox out. Expose his location. Use his arrogance against him. Cassandra crafted a fake broadcast. A fabricated leak claiming she would testify before the UN with a full dossier on every surviving war crime linked to Maddox. The press picked it up. Social media exploded. But it wasn't real. It was a lure. And sure enough, the next day, surveillance drones caught heat signatures deep in the Appalachian Mountains, an unmarked bunker in Virginia. Signal jamming, armed patrols, and encrypted broadcasts matched Maddox's past tactics. The trap was set. At midnight, Cassandra led a hand-picked strike team into the forest. They infiltrated silently, night vision, suppressed weapons, coordinated movement. Inside the bunker, Maddox waited, calm, sipping whiskey by an old war map. He knew she was coming. And when the first shot rang out, he smiled. The walls exploded with gunfire. Maddox's men were well-trained, ruthless, but the witnesses moved like ghosts. Tasha took out the generators. Monique and David secured the prisoners. 9 former soldiers held for information. And Cassandra? She found Maddox. Alone. Waiting. Like a man greeting death with open arms. The room was dark, lit only by a flickering lamp. Cassandra raised her weapon. You destroyed lives. Stained the flag we swore to protect. You killed innocents for profit. Maddox chuckled, bitter. You think this ends with me? I was a cog, Cassandra. You just knocked down a pillar, but the temple stands. Then I'll tear it down brick by brick. Maddox stood, slow. Shoot me. Make me a martyr. Or let me rot. Either way, you lose. The moment you pulled the trigger on your husband, you became me. Cassandra stared at him, the weight of every death, every betrayal, every lie pressing down. Then she lowered her weapon. You're not worth the bullet. Instead, she cuffed him, broadcasted his arrest live. Let the world see him, not as a soldier, not as a hero, but as a coward shackled by truth. Maddox was taken into custody by international authorities. More remnant members were arrested in coordinated raids. The witnesses were no longer a rogue group. They were now recognized by independent coalitions as a veteran-led human rights organization. Cassandra stood atop a ridge at dawn, watching Camp Valor wake. Monique joined her. You didn't kill him. No, Cassandra said. I made him live with what he became. But just as peace seemed possible, something darker surfaced. David ran in with a hard drive. You need to see this. Maddox had a backup plan. A final protocol. Codenamed BLACK TALON. Inside? A list. Names. Photos. Coordinates. Not of enemies, but of witnesses. Civilians. Children. A kill list. And at the top was Cassandra Blake. He's not done, David whispered. Cassandra looked out at the horizon. Her voice steady. Then neither are we. Fade to black. The list was long, over 200 names. Veterans. Whistleblowers. Allies. Even children of witnesses. All marked for death under a secret contingency known as BLACK TALON, Colonel Maddox's last directive in the event of capture. But it wasn't just his plan. The files revealed something worse. BLACK TALON wasn't just military, it was funded and activated by Orion Systems, a global defense conglomerate with ties to corrupt politicians, former CIA operatives, and black budget research programs. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about control. They're eliminating anyone who knows, David said. and were the last ones left. Cassandra held a private emergency meeting with her inner circle. Tensions were high. Plans needed to move fast. Extraction, relocation, public disclosure. But something was wrong. Surveillance logs had been tampered with. Mission details leaked. And 3 safe houses had already been hit. Casualties, 9. Then Monique discovered the truth. Someone inside the witnesses was feeding information to Orion. And the mole was someone Cassandra trusted. Tasha Green, logistics expert. Cassandra's oldest friend from the army. One of the few who knew every name on the Black Talon list. They confronted her. She didn't deny it. "You were playing with fire," Tasha said bitterly. "I did what I had to do to protect my daughter. Orion offered me immunity. You would have let her die for your crusade. So you traded us all?" Cassandra's voice cracked with fury. "I traded you," Tasha spat, "because you stopped fighting for justice and started fighting for revenge." Tasha was detained. But the damage was done. Orion was moving faster now. The witnesses were on borrowed time. Cassandra made the call. "We end this. Not in hiding. Not in silence. But with the world watching." They hacked into major broadcasting networks. Exposed Orion systems. Published every file, every video, every proof of Black Talon's existence. They didn't ask for permission. They forced the world to look. The backlash was global. Protests, press, investigations, defense contracts frozen. But Orion wasn't going down without blood. The final assault came at dawn. An elite kill team, funded by Orion, tracked Cassandra to Camp Valor. They came with drones, thermal scanners, heavy weapons. But the witnesses were ready. Every man and woman had trained for this moment. Veterans who had nothing to lose. Survivors who had lost too much. The battle lasted 43 minutes. Tasha, despite her betrayal, broke free and returned fire against the Orion team. She was shot protecting David. Her last words, "Tell my daughter I chose right." Monique took a hit to the shoulder. David lost hearing in one ear. Ezra Hart was grazed but alive. Cassandra fought like hell. When it was over, 19 were dead, 12 of them Orion. The rest surrendered. And Cassandra? She stood over their leader, bruised and bloodied, gun shaking. "This is for everyone you silenced." She didn't fire. She turned to the camera drones hovering overhead and said, "This is how we win. Not with more bodies, but by refusing to become them." 3 months later, Orion's CEO was arrested for conspiracy to commit murder and human experimentation. Black Talon was disbanded. Every survivor on the list was placed in protective custody. Congress began hearings on black budget abuses. Camp Valor became a government-recognized rehabilitation and truth commission for military whistleblowers. And Cassandra? She declined medals, refused promotions. She retired, quietly, but not in shame. She visited Marcus's grave, her late husband, the man whose betrayal sparked this storm. She placed a single dog tag at the headstone. Hers. "I've made peace with what I did, but I'll carry the consequences forever." As she walked away, Monique joined her. "You sure this is it?" "For me, yes," Cassandra said. "But not for them." "Them?" Cassandra looked up. At the horizon, where new recruits trained, where truth still had to be fought for. The next generation. The ones who won't let silence win. As the screen fades to black, a final image appears. A classified document, partially decrypted, with a new code name. Project Goliath. Status: active. Authorized by. Redacted. A new threat is emerging. And someone will need to rise again.